When people think of pirates, names like Blackbeard and Long John Silver come to mind. But Mississippi Joe Mason was far more ruthless and brutal than any in the Caribbean. His reign of terror lasted more than a dozen years after the Civil War. This is the story of one of the most remarkable outlaws in the history of the United States. Joe Mason was born in Memphis, Tennessee in 1844, the youngest of 4 boys. His father was a boat maker, and the boy grew up as much on water as on land. He knew boats well and hired himself out as a navigator on the Mississippi River as a teenager. He was a troublemaker even then, getting into fights and often escaping retribution via the river. Against his father's wishes, he joined the Confederate Army at age 17. Joe was stationed on Island Number 10, a critical junction for the control of the entire Mississippi River. In February 1862, the Union Army came down the Mississippi and laid siege to the island in a battle that lasted over a month. By April, young Joe realized the fight was going the North's way. One night, he killed 2 of his fellow soldiers and escaped on a homemade raft he'd built in secret, and made his way down to Temptonville, Tennessee, where he killed a farmer, his wife, and stole their small boat. A deserter, Joe Mason was now wanted by both sides, the Confederacy and the Union, so he became a river pirate. He made his way up and down the Mississippi raiding boats. His desperation made him reckless and ruthless. He took no prisoners, simply slaughtering everyone on board. His reputation grew so that just the very sight of his black flag would cause a boat captain to flee, simply leaving behind their ship and cargo. He collected a small gang of equally ruthless deserters and cutthroats, and for the next dozen years, he and his men ruled the Mississippi. His knowledge of the river and skill with boats was legendary. It's been estimated that he robbed over 300 boats, though most of those were small vessels with minimal crew. His most famous crime is robbing a U.S. Treasury transport in October 1872, where he stole over $50,000 in gold. He was arrested in January 1874, but escaped custody after killing a guard. The Mississippi was becoming too hot even for Joe, so he decided it was time to retire. He murdered all his men, took his gold, and headed west. When Mississippi Joe's criminal activities quieted, interest in him faded. Most thought he was dead. He finally resurfaced in Oregon in 1883. He was a gambler and a drunk, and one night confided in a woman and told her of his true identity. She turned him into the sheriff, and there was a gunfight. Joe was injured in the process, but he killed the sheriff and escaped. He fled to the Santiam wilderness, where it was thought he died. No one knows what happened to Mississippi Joe's treasure. Many still seek it, and there were rumors for decades where he could have hidden it. That mystery will remain unsolved, gone with Mississippi Joe. His legend lives on, the most terrible river pirate in U.S. history.